Good morning. Good morning and welcome to our hybrid worship service. I am the Reverend Dr. Elizabeth Stevens. I use she, her pronouns, and I am lucky enough to serve this congregation as its minister. I'd like to extend a special welcome to everyone who's here worshiping with us for the first time. We're so very glad that you've joined us. If you've come in person, you should have received a welcome packet when you arrived. It's got a card in it. If you fill it out and drop it in the offering basket, we'll be able to be in touch to support you in finding your way into our community. In the meantime, please know that we have coffee hour in our fellowship hall downstairs following the service. Our welcoming committee members have yellow name tags, and they're great people to go to if you have any questions. You can also find me or Ginger Yoder, our Director of Family Ministries. If you are joining us online, there's a link on our website to an electronic version of that same newcomer card. And we host a virtual coffee hour after the service if there's any interest. So don't necessarily log off right away as soon as the service is over. And now let's all say our words of welcome together. Welcome to you, old friends and new, young and old. You are an essential part of our celebration today. Whether today is your first or your 1000th Sunday in our midst, we are stronger because you are with us. We are one people of many beliefs, identities, origins, sexualities, and genders. We are all growing, all learning, all loved. Body, mind, heart, and spirit. Just as you are welcome here. Now we're going to take just a moment to say hello across the technological divide. First, we're going to show the people who are joining us on Zoom. So if you are on Zoom, please turn on your camera. And wave. Hello. Okay, and now people who are attending the service in person. Wave, it's your turn. I do have a few announcements this morning. For those of you who are here in the building, when you came in, you should have picked up a pronoun ribbon to add to your name tag. We're hoping that everyone will use one from here on out. We know that trans and non-binary folk feel safer and more comfortable in community when it's standard practice for everybody to identify pronouns. So we're just making it simple and easy. Just stick it to your name tag. We're good to go. If you're online, you can actually add your pronouns to your name by clicking the 3 dots by your picture and choosing rename and just adding your pronouns in parentheses. The first regular meeting of our new Navigators USA Scouting Troop will be today at 1 p.m. in the fellowship hall. So just after coffee hour or a little ways after coffee hour. The meeting's going to focus on getting to know one another and learning some of the basics of Navigators USA. For those of you who may not be familiar, Navigators is the gender inclusive version of Scouting. Gender and faith inclusive version of Scouting. The Girl Scouts have always been pretty gender inclusive and faith inclusive, but maybe Boy Scouts, not so much. So we have Navigators USA. So everyone's welcome. And if you want to learn more about the program, feel free to go and check it out. And you don't have to be a kid. We need grownups to participate as well. We're happy to report that both Whitman and Latah counties are in the green zone, which means masks are not required. And we can sing together, which is wonderful. If you'd like to know more about our church policy on COVID precautions, it's found on the UUCP website. Here end the announcements. We preface our service by acknowledging that the land on which our home and our church were built was not uninhabited when Europeans, settlers arrived here with their ideas of conquest and ownership. For those of us who live in Moscow, Pullman, or other nearby communities, we live on the ancestral homelands of the Nimipu, called Nez Perce by the French-speaking traders, the Palouse, and the Chichumsh, called the Coeur d'Alene. If you're joining us from another place, I encourage you to discover who inhabited or moved through the place where you now live in the times before colonization and genocide, and where they live now. We pause and remember that we live on ground that is sacred, ground that was stolen, ground that cries out for justice and for responsible stewardship. May our remembering help us find the courage to do our part to restore wholeness to the earth and all her peoples. We also pause and light a candle to pray for peace. Can somebody, who's lighting our peace candle? So we're going to light the blue peace candle first. And as we light this candle for peace, we're going to hold in our hearts all those currently threatened by greed and imperialism, from the people in Ukraine to those in Somalia. On this, the 11th anniversary of the attack on the Twin Towers and the Pentagon, we recommit ourselves to nurturing peace, peace in the world and peace within. And now we're hoping that folks joining us via Zoom have a chalice or a candle to light and something to light it with. Let's light them all together. All right, now we're going to light the candle, the chalice. And let's say the words together. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek and seek to share. Thank you so much, June and Eleanor. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit. Let's sing together our affirmation. Thank you. Please be seated. Today's service lifts up and celebrates the power of small groups in creating and sustaining and transforming individual people, communities, and society at large. In the midst of all the busyness, the hustle and bustle, the distractions and the stresses and the overwhelming worries about our uncertain future, we all need places to slow down, to be real with a trusted group of compassionate friends. The times when we can lay down our armor and tell the truth keep us sane and keep us functioning. More, they enable us to cultivate both resources and resilience so that when we go back out into that hustle and bustle, we're able to be kinder, more principled, and more effective. Providing opportunities for people to come together in this way is a primary function of our religious community. I've turned once again to my brilliant colleague, the Reverend Gretchen Haley, for these opening words. There's nothing you need to bring with you to be welcome here. No right beliefs or proof of citizenship. No eternal optimism or clarity of conviction. No boundless courage or endless expertise. You do not need to know what brought you here or how you will solve that problem you're turning over and over in your mind. Your bills do not need to be paid, and your checkbook can be a mess. Your children may have been up half the night. Your hearing aids may not be working and your knees may be creaking. You do not need to be already perfect or even halfway to belong in this circle where grace meets us where we are, but does not leave us as it found us. Where love resides in each of us, yet is somehow more than all, where life pulses and rages and heals and transforms, creating us and this day anew once again. Come, let us worship together. And I invite you to rise again in body or in spirit to join in Come, Come, whoever you are. And now if the children and the young at heart would like to come forward for a story. This is Ginger Yoder, our Director of Family Ministries.
That's how I'm supposed to speak. That's right. He was telling me about how he was included. I don't speak very good school. I'm no rusty. What about you, Mommy? You raise your hand. No, you don't know. Well, I hope that church can be a place where you feel that you can bring all pieces of you. Yeah. A car is a grace. Thank you. You have so many trunks. I'm glad you felt that you could bring those today. It keeps you company. You do have all of those trunks. So we should go to class, and that's a special place where we can feel like we can go along and bring whoever we want along our trucks and toys. Should we go to class? We can sing the read and benediction.
Now let's take a moment to engage in the practice of generosity together. For those of you who are able to make a financial contribution, the logistics are on your screen. We'd invite you to either copy down the information you need or simply go to the website to make a donation. For those of you online, we'll put the web address in the chat. Those of you who are newer or visiting from another part of the country may not be aware that we typically give away all of the cash that we receive on Sunday mornings to local charities whose missions align with our values, a program called the Month of Sundays. This month, the recipient is Circles of Care Adult Day Health, a local organization that makes it possible for adults living with dementia and chronic illness to be successful, safe, and surrounded by family and friends by providing a unique day program that provides safe, caring, and nurturing atmosphere for adults and elders. Oh my gosh, she's so cute. Sorry. If you are donating online, you can choose Month of Sundays from the drop-down menu. If you're mailing or dropping off a check, simply indicate in the memo line whether it's intended for the Month of Sundays or for our general fund. In the spirit of love and for the continuing work of this church, we'll now take some time to practice generosity together. I invite you now to ease down gently into a time of meditation or of prayer. Being human can be hard. Being human in a world of brokenness and keeping our hearts soft and open can be even harder. So let us give thanks every day that we don't have to do it alone. Let us give thanks for the ancestors, those who through the generations patiently and often with no great fanfare saw the world as it was and imagined the world as it could be and set us on the path we now follow. Let us give thanks for those ahead of us, the teachers, the leaders, the people whose ideas blow our minds, whose stories break our hearts, the ones who help us check our privilege and question our assumptions, the ones who inspire acts of courage, or even sacrifice. Above all, let us give thanks for our companions on the journey, the dear people who we trust to accept us as we are with all our faults and frailties. The people who hold space so that we can reconnect with our soul, gently hearing us into being. The ones who don't try to fix or give advice, the ones we can count on to cheer us on when we're moving forward, the ones who will never leave us behind on the days when we can't move a muscle. All people of goodwill are traveling on a path toward a better future, each in our own way, sometimes leading, sometimes following, sometimes progressing, sometimes resting, sometimes regressing, but never giving up. Beloveds, we have a long way to go if we're to build the world we dream about, the world that is worthy of our children. But we are a mighty host, and we will get there someday. In the silence, may we rest in the companionship of these good souls, all of us on the path, all moving forward together. Our reading this morning comes from Turning to One Another, Simple Conversations to Restore Hope in the Future by Margaret Wheatley. For as long as we've been around as humans, as wandering bands of nomads or cave dwellers, we have sat together and shared experiences. We painted images on rock walls, recounted dreams and visions, told stories of the day, and generally felt comforted to be in the world together. When the world became fearsome, we came together. When the world called to us to explore its edges, we journeyed together. Whatever we did it together. We've never wanted to be alone. But today we are alone. We're more fragmented and isolated from one another than ever before. Archbishop Desmond Tutu described it as a radical brokenness in all of existence. We move at frantic speed, spinning out into greater isolation. We seek consolation in everything except each other. The entire world seems hypnotized in the wrong direction, encouraging us to love things rather than people, to embrace everything new without noticing what's lost or wrong, to choose fear instead of peace. We promise ourselves everything except each other. We've forgotten the true source of contentment and well-being. But we haven't really forgotten. As the world becomes more complex and fearful, we know we need each other to find our way through the darkness. The yearning for community is worldwide. What can we do to turn to one another? The simplest way to begin finding each other again is to start talking about what we care about. I hope we can reclaim conversation as our route back to each other and as the path forward to a hopeful future. It only requires imagination and courage and faith. These are qualities possessed by everyone, and now is the time to exercise them to their fullest. So one of the lessons that life brings me to round and round again is this paradox. In order to grow and change, I need to accept myself fully and unconditionally, exactly the way that I am. In order to grow and change, humans need to accept themselves fully and unconditionally, exactly as they are. Now, don't get me wrong. I've tried all the other methods. I've tried shaming myself into being better. I've tried structure. I've tried willpower. I've tried that thing where you do something 30 times deliberately in order to cultivate a new habit. But these efforts don't usually succeed. When I try to force or choose or control my change, it feels like I'm swimming against a current. When, on the other hand, I simply make peace with who I am, with where I am, my personal evolution unfolds naturally and effortlessly. I'm not choosing how I'm growing. It's abundantly clear to me that I am not really in charge, or at least my conscious mind isn't anyway. But there's a force in me, a vitality and energy flowing through. And when I align myself with that energy and relax, or dare I even say surrender, It carries me exactly where I need to go. I become kinder, wiser, more patient, more compassionate, more present. I spend more of my day feeling like I'm where I'm supposed to be, doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So that's gaining a sense of purpose and transcendence. I sense that I'm a small but not insignificant part of a larger whole. But I do tend to get stuck. And I think this is a human thing and not an Elizabeth thing. Doubts and fears and worries and anxieties, shame, culture, and that ever-present desire for control keep me from accepting myself fully, keep me from letting go, surrendering to love. Nothing works better for getting unstuck than being in a circle of trusted friends, people who know me and love me and accept all of me, even the parts that I sometimes try to hide from. People who listen when I speak without judging, advising, or debating. People who speak in their turn and share the unique wisdom they've accrued through their own life experience. People willing to laugh with me and cry with me. People who insist that we be real with one another, because that's what friends do. In life, on our spiritual journey, there's only so far that navel gazing will get us. We need each other. We need people to see us and to reflect back what they see. We need people to call us on our stuff. And we need people to create that container, that safe place where we can break down the interior walls that we erected to protect ourselves so that we can speak from our vulnerable core. It goes beyond the recognition that humans are social animals. It runs deeper even than an awareness of our interdependence. We require a safe and loving environment to become the people we are meant to be. And it's only through becoming the people we are meant to be that we can create the world we are dreaming of. The conversations that we have with small groups of people we trust are the best and most powerful tool we have for advancing our collective understanding of what is right and true. Unitarian Universalist theologian James Luther Adams taught that people come to church seeking two things: intimacy and ultimacy. We come wanting to know and be known. We come wanting to find that sense of purpose and transcendence I was just talking about. But the truth is, in my experience, we're less likely to find intimacy and ultimacy in Sunday morning worship than we are in smaller gatherings. Ideally, ones that entail meeting with the same people on a regular basis over time, so that we establish a sense of trust and safety with and for one another. This congregation provides all sorts of opportunities for people to connect on a deeper level than Sunday service and coffee hour provide: affinity groups, activities, and more. In terms of ultimacy and intimacy, though, there's no better place to look than in our small group ministry program. May I ask for a quick show of hands, how many of you are already in a small group? The men's group is considered a small group, and the Buddhist meditation group, and the parents group. If your hand isn't raised and you'd like to find out more or sign up, please let Patricia Jessup know. Patricia's in the back here in the blue-green shirt. She's our small group coordinator. Now, some churches call their small groups covenant groups. As you likely know, because I talk about it a lot, we are a covenantal faith, which means that rather than shared beliefs, we organize around a commitment to treat one another with respect and kindness. We have a congregational covenant that guides us in our interactions with one another. Small groups create a separate covenant, one that helps everyone feel safe and supported so that we can be vulnerable with one another. It typically includes things like no crosstalk, or my personal favorite, step up, step back, which is a reminder to people who like to talk to create space to step back for quieter folks, and a reminder to folks who are quieter to be brave and step up and speak up. The goal of the covenant is to help foster and support good conversation. Margaret Wheatley, the author of our reading, writes, "Good conversation connects us at a deeper level. As we share our different human experiences, we rediscover a sense of unity. We remember we are part of a greater whole. And as an added joy, we also discover our collective wisdom. We suddenly see how wise we can be together." She continues, "For conversation to take us into this deeper realm, I believe we have to practice several new behaviors. Here are the principles I've learned to emphasize before we begin a conversation process. We acknowledge one another as equals. We try to stay curious about each other. We recognize that we need each other's help to become better listeners. We slow down so we have time to think and reflect. We remember that conversation is the natural way humans think together, and we expect it to be messy at times. So deep respect for one another, an attitude of curiosity and attention, a tolerance for messiness, and the ever important commitment to slow down. The Reverend Dr. Tandayaka believes that what makes small group ministry effective is that we deliberately create sacred time when we pay attention to all that we are thinking, feeling, and being, filling it up with the full presence of life. She talks about the difference between sacred time and fleeting time. In her words, fleeting time is the kind of time in which we are distracted, racing around and trying to catch up as we fall further behind. It's working at the computer while a friend talks to us on the phone. By contrast, sacred time is noticing a shift of tone in a person's voice and asking what's wrong. It's full presence, paying attention in the moment. It's what happens in a small group when we discover how to stay present to life again. This slowing down and staying present serves us in two ways. First of all, we think a lot faster than we feel. So if we're going to venture into the feeling realm, we need to give ourselves and one another the gift of time. Sink down slowly. Here's a quick demonstration that Tandayaka often uses. Think about a pink elephant. Now think about a red rose. Now think about a fire truck. And now think about a mountain. That worked pretty well, right? We can think all of those things. Okay, now feel sad. Now feel happy. Now feel angry. Now feel excited. Doesn't work, does it? We think in fleeting time, but we feel in sacred time. Often we're too busy to acknowledge our feelings, and so we stuff them, especially the unpleasant ones. When we stuff our feelings, they have this annoying tendency to leak out in unhealthy ways. When we stuff our feelings, we can't use them as fodder for self-understanding and growth. Instead, they become barriers to that flow of vitality and growth. We get stuck. So for the process of personal evolution to unfold the way I've described, we have to be willing to slow down and sink down to fully experience our emotions. How often do we ask in passing, "How are you doing?" And a person just answers, "Oh, I'm good. I'm fine, thanks." Were we to pause and then ask, "No, how are you really doing?" The person might just check it out and might have more to say. If we can stay with it for just a bit longer, we might hear something that's infinitely more complex and much more real. Which leads us to the second reason slowing down and shifting to sacred time is such a good thing. In conversation, how many of you will own up to listening with half of your brain while thinking about what you're going to say next with the other half? Most of the time, we are not the best of listeners. When someone is talking, we find ourselves planning our response or making judgments or checking our email or thinking through our shopping list or our schedule or even playing on our phone. So to give our full and undivided attention to one another, to listen with our whole brain and our whole heart is a rare and precious gift. Small group ministry works so well in UU congregations because they tap into our greatest resource, which is each other. Not books or creeds or history, but the hearts and minds of people who are living alongside us, struggling and questioning, learning and growing. Now, as I mentioned, our small group ministry program isn't the only opportunity to make connections. We understand that people are different, so we offer ways to connect in different ways. For people who find small groups uncomfortable, inconvenient, or boring, we have affinity groups and classes, and if all else fails, ask someone who seems trustworthy to go for a walk or grab coffee or lunch. Whatever you choose, know that to be part of this community, you don't need to toe a particular line or recite a creed. You don't need to pretend to be someone you're not, quite the contrary. You really are welcome just as you are. To be part of this community, you just need to accept the invitation and step into the conversation. For us, the best place to find wisdom isn't in holy scriptures or from a deity or other authority figure. Rather, wisdom's home, its origin, is at the center of the circle. Wheatley says, conversation is the natural way we humans think together. We can't be creative if we refuse to be confused. It's not our differences that divide us, it's our judgments about each other. There is no power for change greater than a community discovering what it cares about. Conversation is the natural way we think together. The whole is somehow greater than the sum of the parts. Like the blind man and the elephant, it's only as we let in alternate perspectives and new ideas that some sense of the whole begins to emerge. It's not our differences that divide us, but our judgments about each other, not to mention our judgments about ourselves. Can we let go of judgment and accept ourselves and one another as we are? It's such a simple thing. A small circle of kind, non-judgmental people being honest and real with one another. It's perhaps the most ancient of technologies. But I would argue that it is also still one of the most potent. So again, contact Patricia Jessup if you want to sign up for our small group ministry program. But regardless, please give yourself the gift of spending time with and giving attention to the people you care about. Your thoughts are worth sharing, and your feelings deserve to be acknowledged. People need to be seen, heard, affirmed, and loved in order to thrive. This is how we grow. This is how we can be faithful to our own individual process of becoming, which is part of the greater process of collective evolution that holds hope for our species and for our planet. So be it, and so may it be. And now let's sing together again. You can rise in body or in spirit. We're going to do Lean on Me by the Reverend Teresa Ninan Soto. Bring your broken hallelujah here. Bring the large one that is beyond repair. Bring the small one that's too soft to share. Bring your broken hallelujah here. I know that people have told you that before you can give, you have to get yourself together. They overstated the value of perfection by a lot. Or they forgot. You are the gift. We all bring some broken things, songs and dreams and long lost hopes. But here and together we reach within. As a community, we begin again. And from the pieces, we will build something new. There is work that only you can do. We wait for you. Let's sing together, There Is a Love. Please join me now in the words to extinguish our chalice. Beloveds, be honest, be real, stick together. Don't leave anyone behind. That's what friends do. Go in peace. I'll see you next Sunday.